Thank you all very much. And I have to say, I had the privilege of meeting with some of the industry representatives here for breakfast a little bit earlier. And when we were all going around the room introducing ourselves, when Bob introduced himself, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, and this is an incredible individual. Hopefully those of you who were at the breakfast understand what I was saying then. I have had the privilege of knowing Bob since, I don't know, the late 1980s or early 90s when he came to Houston to help us start Space Center Houston, and actually had the concept and produced the feature film there that's called To Be an Astronaut. And I have never ceased to be amazed at his ability to inspire people to do big things. And so hopefully all of you took to heart all the words that he said. And believe it or not, we did not confer at all. For those, again, who were in the industry breakfast, since some of what Bob said probably resonated with what I said, I had no clue what he was going to say, but I was glad to hear it. It's one of those things that I tell people a lot of time, God works in mysterious ways. So Bob, thanks very much for your comments, and hopefully I will live up to the expectation here. Wanda, thank you very much for the kind introduction. As I told people earlier today, and I tell people quite frequently, it's a wonderful time to be in the aerospace business. Just this week alone, as I think most of you know, we launch a cutting-edge science mission, mark milestones in the Space Launch System, and we welcome astronauts home from the International Space Station. That's all going to happen in the next 2 days. We're witnessing a renaissance in many fields and an expansion of many that are still in their infancy, such as the discovery of planets outside our solar system. It was just a few short years ago that President Obama visited the Kennedy Space Center in Florida and committed us to a journey to Mars. The President challenged us to visit an asteroid by 2025 and put humans in the Martian environment in the 2030s. We'll begin with an unprecedented mission to redirect an asteroid into orbit in cislunar space and send astronauts to it as part of a stepping stone approach to reach the red planet. Thanks to the hard work of our NASA industry team and the work of all of you, particularly all of you, our contractors, our academic and entrepreneurial partners, and all across America, we've made a lot of progress on that journey. Today, the largest, most powerful booster ever built for our new Space Launch System, or SLS, which will carry astronauts to deep space aboard Orion, will fire up for the ground test at Orbital ATK Propulsion Systems Test Facility in Promontory, Utah. That'll be QM1, and unless something happens, we should get results of that before this day is over. At our Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, we recently tested the RS-25 engines from the Space Shuttle, 4 of which will power the SLS. This vehicle has moved from formulation to development, something no other exploration class vehicle has achieved since the agency built the Space Shuttle. I think most of you are aware of how great the Orion spacecraft performed on its first flight test this past December 5th, and Wanda alluded to that. I tell you, I was blown away, to be quite honest. But I will tell you something else. It's a side story to Orion's recovery. And as Americans, I want to tell you this. There may be some non-Americans in here, but I want to tell you also. How many people know how Orion was recovered? Anybody who does not know? We used the USS Anchorage, a U.S. Navy vessel to pick it up. To tell you about how bright our future is, I had gone out to the Anchorage. I've told Wanda this before. I'd gone out to the Anchorage about a month before the actual flight, just to watch one of the last tests that we did with the Orion engineering mock-up. Where the crew picked it up. We put divers in the water. We had used the Salvor, which is a salvage ship, to lift it out by a crane to demonstrate that we could do that if we needed to. But the basic plan was to get Orion, get the USS Anchorage in the vicinity of Orion, and then tow it into the bow of the ship, or into the well deck, where it would be placed on a little cradle, and then we could recover it and bring it back. As I was up on the bridge on recovery day, I looked around, and the officer of the deck underway was a young female lieutenant 2011 graduate of Old Dominion University. Now think about that. This is a multi-million-dollar naval vessel getting ready to pick up this doggone billion-dollar engineering mock-up, and she's out of the class of 2011 from Old Dominion University. And I looked at the captain sitting over, the salty captain sitting over in the captain's chair. He's probably just gnawing away inside, but not saying a word, watching his charges do this. And there was probably no one on the deck up on the bridge that was over the age of 25. That was the United States Navy. And in the fast boats that were in the water with the divers, they were actually going to go over with our folk and put the harness on Orion to drag it in, were 17 and 18-year-old kids driving boats through the Pacific Ocean, sometimes up to like 80 miles an hour. So, you know, think about your kids. How many of them would give their eye teeth to be able to go out and speed around the Pacific in a boat? And they were doing it in service to our nation. It has nothing to do with Orion whatsoever, but it is an incredible indication of the value of this nation and what we do and the brightness of our future, the way that I look at it. I think most of you are aware of how great the potential of Orion, if we can carry this program through and get to the point where we fly our first flight, EM2, with a crew sometime in the early 2020s. That flight will go to cislunar space, and it will begin a period of about 5 or 10 years that we live and work in what we call the proving zone in cislunar space, trying to put the finishing touches on the technologies we need to send humans to Mars and actually make sure we understand fully the challenges that there will be to the biomedical risk to the humans. Our latest cutting-edge science mission, developed right here at the Goddard Space Flight Center, not very far from here, launches tomorrow. The Magnetospheric Multiscale Mission, MMS, will study magnetic resonance, reconnection of a fundamental process that occurs throughout the universe when magnetic fields connect and disconnect explosively, releasing energy and accelerating particles up to nearly the speed of light. Thanks to the grit, determination, and American ingenuity, we've returned cargo resupply missions to the International Space Station to U.S. soil, insourcing these jobs and creating a whole new private market in low Earth orbit. Now, SpaceX and Boeing and the Boeing Company are developing the new systems in which our astronauts soon will travel once again from American soil to the International Space Station. This work is an incredible testament to American ingenuity and know-how, and an extraordinary validation of the vision we laid out just a few years ago as we prepared for the long-planned retirement of the space shuttle. Just a couple of weeks ago, astronauts aboard the space station undertook 3 successful spacewalks to help configure the station to accept these commercial vehicles in the 2017 timeframe. Last month, Boeing and the United Launch Alliance broke ground on the Crew Access Tower at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base in Florida. This means the structure that astronauts will use to access Boeing's space transportation system is now in progress. Soon, SpaceX will test the launch abort system that will carry astronauts to safety in the event of an emergency at their launch site. And SpaceX is in the process of preparing Launch Complex 39A for the launch of their vehicles. On Thursday, that's tomorrow, if my calendar is right, Bigelow Aerospace marks the completion of all major milestones on the Bigelow Expandable Activity Module, or the BEAM, an inflatable habitat experiment which will launch to ISS later this year and be installed on the aft port of the station's Tranquility mode. Some of you have heard me use the name Bigelow in the past, and I've always said I have to be very cautious that I am not promoting or advertising or doing anything. But since Bigelow is the only company presently engaged in trying to produce habitats for orbit, then they are the only example that I can use. And as I have said to folk in the commercial space business for probably 5 or 6 years now, we need destinations. We need places for the launch vehicles that we're producing to go on orbit. We need laboratories. We need habitats. We need standalone modules where we can put pharmaceuticals to be developed, where we can put materials to be processed, where there are no astronauts to screw with it. You all in industry have told me that. You don't want astronauts around. So if you don't want astronauts around, build some habitats where we can put experiments and get on the way, like Bob Rogers said, get back up on the dare taker curve again. These are just a few examples of our progress and the innovation of our partners. NASA is fortunate to benefit from wide and deep bipartisan support in Congress. I know you find that hard to believe, but we do. I think if you look around the room, you'll find people with many different points of view, but we can all agree that our nation's space program is vital, not only for technological competitiveness, but for the economy, and most importantly, to inspire future generations. President Obama has proposed an FY 2016 budget of $18.5 billion for NASA, building on the significant investments the administration has made in America's space program over the past 6 years. That's a $500 million increase over last year's enacted budget, and it's a clear vote of confidence in our ambitious exploration program. As I have said frequently, NASA is firmly on a journey to Mars, and make no mistake, this journey will help guide and define our generation and the generations behind us. This year, we celebrate 50 years since Ed White left his Gemini capsule to become America's first spacewalker. It was only a few years later that we landed humans on the moon. And not too long after that, the United States became the first and still the only nation to successfully land a spacecraft on Mars. Our incredible 30-year space shuttle era followed from 1981 through July of 2011, during which the science community saw the deployment of 3 of the 4 great observatories deployed from the shuttle during the decade of the 90s: the Hubble Space Telescope in April of '90, the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory in April of '91, the Chandra X-ray Observatory in 1999, contributing to a golden age of planetary and astrophysics exploration and discovery. It was through the Space Shuttle program that NASA opened spaceflight to many who had previously had no chance of flying, people like me, bringing diversity to our crews to include women, minorities, and astronauts from many other partner nations, and I believe that is perhaps Shuttle's greatest legacy. Over the past 6 years, we've taken the most concrete steps ever to advance a human mission to Mars. Astronauts on the station, for instance, performed countless experiments helping us learn about human health in space and demonstrating technologies to go farther. Later this month, we launch astronaut Scott Kelly and his Russian counterpart Mikhail Kornienko on a 1-year mission aboard the station to learn more about how to live and work in space for the long term, comparing Scott's vital signs to those of his twin brother Mark here on Earth. This will be the first ever experiment using identical twins to learn more about the effects of living and working in space. But this journey to Mars, indeed our entire path to the future, starts now, right here on Earth. Our commercial crew work, for example, encompasses efforts in 37 states, from Nevada to Montana to Kansas, Wisconsin, and New Jersey, and of course, Maryland, DC, and Virginia. We know that technology drives exploration on our journey to Mars. So we will continue to develop advanced solar electric propulsion systems needed for the asteroid redirect mission and other deep space missions, and to make advances in the atomic clocks and green propellants that will guide and power our future missions. This summer, we plan to once again test the low-density supersonic decelerator off the coast of Kauai. The data we gain is critical to proving in flight the new technologies critical for landing larger payloads on the surface of the red planet. As we advance our journey to Mars, we're also focusing here on Earth on making aviation greener, quieter, and more efficient. It's been 100 years since NASA's predecessor, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, was formed. Today, every U.S. aircraft and U.S. air traffic control tower has NASA-developed technology on board. NASA scientists and engineers are working on new composite materials that will make future air and spacecraft lighter and more durable. NASA is with you when you fly, and we're committed to transforming aviation by dramatically reducing its environmental impact, maintaining safety in more crowded skies, and paving the way toward revolutionary aircraft shapes and propulsion systems. You all know, especially those of you who work at Goddard, how incredible our science portfolio is. In the last 12 months, we've launched 5 Earth science missions. 5. The last in the year of Earth missions, Soil Moisture Active Passive, or SMAP, was launched in January. Global precipitation measurement has now been in space for a year, thanks to the hard work at Goddard. CATS, the Cloud Aerosol Transport System, is aboard the station, so Goddard's work there is helping advance the station's use as an Earth science platform. These missions are studying such diverse aspects of our planet as ocean winds, components of our atmosphere, and precipitation on a global level. As we strive to achieve the dream of sending humans to Mars, it's important to remember that we're already there. For 40 years, increasingly advanced robotic explorers have studied the red planet. This has dramatically increased our scientific knowledge and helped pave the way for astronauts to travel there. Our latest Mars spacecraft, MAVEN, arrived last September to study the upper atmosphere and joined a fleet of orbiters and rovers on the surface. Next year, we'll send the InSight lander to study the planet's core. In 2020, a new rover building on the incredible success of Curiosity will help us prepare for human arrival at Mars and, for the first time ever, will cache a sample for later return to Earth. Mars is a key destination, but it's only one point on our journey of discovery. I was privileged 25 years ago next month to pilot the Space Shuttle Discovery's STS-31 mission, during which we deployed the Hubble Space Telescope. Hubble is still doing absolutely amazing science. In just 3 years, we'll launch the James Webb Space Telescope, Hubble's successor, which is taking shape right now not far from here at Goddard. After nearly 9 years and 3 billion miles of travel, the New Horizons spacecraft was awakened in January to prepare for its arrival in the Pluto system in July. The Dawn spacecraft has just begun to orbit Ceres and became the first mission to orbit a dwarf planet. And, if I remember correctly, the first mission to actually visit 2 bodies in our solar system on the same mission. Juno is speeding toward arrival at Jupiter next year, where it will not only send back unprecedented data from a first ever polar orbit of our giant neighbor, it will demonstrate how solar power can work at great distances from the sun. Looking to the future, we're planning a mission to explore Jupiter's fascinating moon, Europa, selecting instruments this spring and moving toward the next phase of our work. The Kepler mission continues to discover new planets outside our solar system. It has confirmed more than 1,000 planets, some of which could be rocky like Earth. The Solar Dynamics Observatory, managed at Goddard, just took its 100 millionth image of the sun. In dozens of other astrophysics and heliophysics missions, the data streaming back to us is bathing us in information through which scientists will sort, decipher, and make discoveries for years to come. But with all of this, still, our journey of discovery has only just begun. Together, humans and robots will pioneer Mars and the solar system. In fact, they already work closely together aboard the space station. As the President said in his State of the Union speech recently, and I quote, "We're pushing out into the solar system not just to visit, but to stay," unquote. We're making our mark on history, and along the way, we're inspiring a whole new generation of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. That's why we're dedicated to education in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, and broadening the pipeline to develop the leaders of the future. That's why we've been inviting citizen scientists, makers, and innovators from across America to share their best ideas through prizes and challenges. So I want to assure you, all of you, who by your very presence here have demonstrated your passion for exploration, that America's space program is not just alive, it's thriving. Together with our commercial and international partners, academia, and entrepreneurs, we're launching the future. With continued support of the administration, the Congress, and the American people, we'll all get there together, and we'll continue to make the impossible possible and turn science fiction into science fact. Now, before I sit down, I want to answer one question, or I want to repose a question that Bob Rogers asked, and that's, what are we going to do? It's very simple. It takes the efforts of every single one of us in this room. You know, frequently at our stage of life and our place in our careers, there are certain things that we feel are beneath us, or we just don't have time for. If you have a son or a daughter or a grandson or a granddaughter, I'd recommend you get off the couch, you know, when you take some time away from work and go to school for Grandpa's Day or Parents' Day or whatever it is. And most importantly, make sure that if you have 2 kids, there are at least 2 people in the world who know what you do. And I'm serious. I am, as they used to say back in Columbia, South Carolina, I'm serious as a heart attack. If your kids don't know what you do, it's hopeless. If your neighbors don't know what you do, it's hopeless. If people in your church, your synagogue, your mosque don't know what you do, it's hopeless. If you're not proud of what you do, it's hopeless. So, you know, if you're not excited by being in this room, you're wasting your company's money and your time, to be quite honest. Bob he's serious. He is a storyteller. He is an absolutely incredible storyteller, but so are we. And there is no one better to tell our story than each and every one of us. I'm from South Carolina. I was born and raised in Columbia. My mother's from Charleston, South Carolina, and down there the storyteller is called the Greedo. And everybody that is in my background, everything we know, we pass by word of mouth. You know, we didn't know how to write earlier, and so we pass it by word of mouth. I need for every single one of you to be a Greedo. I need for you to become storytellers, to pass stories by word of mouth, to tell people what we do, who we are, why we're excited about it. Because if you're not excited about it today, I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do. It is a great time to be in the space business. You know, and if you don't believe that we turn science fiction into science fact and make the impossible possible every single day, if you don't believe that something that you do makes life better for every human being on this planet, you're in the wrong business. As I told the business representatives earlier today, this is a tough time. We are going to see some failures. We're going to lose some people because that's a part of the business. So if you're not ready for that, go find a more comfortable job, to be quite honest. It is a great time to be in this business. I am very proud to be a part of this team, and I look forward to working with every single one of you in the days and weeks and months and years ahead. Thanks so much for allowing me to be with you this morning. Thank you. I always get in trouble at this point, so they asked me if I had time for questions. I think I do. So if somebody has questions, fire away, as they say at the Naval Academy. Fire away, Gridley. When ready, Gridley. Is that right? Did I get it right? Fire away when ready?
Thank you for being here, and very, very nice, inspiring speech. I like your mentioning from science fiction to science fact. I hope we can make more of that happen. My question to you is sort of one I've asked many people over recent years. What can we do to further cooperate rather with some nations that we've been reluctant to so far? I'm thinking in terms of China.
China.
Yes.
Lauren. Okay, Lauren Worley is my press secretary, and she's about to have a heart attack. Because we got Frank Mooring here, and we got other people, and so they're waiting on the edge of their seats to hear how I'm going to respond to that question. I'm going to respond to that question the same way I do all the time. very capable nation, very competent. You know, at some time in the future, and it probably won't happen in my tenure as the NASA administrator, and I think that's unfortunate, but at some time in the future, then I think we will, in fact, you know, reach out or accept the overtures, and China will become a member of the family of spacefaring nations. But for a lot of reasons right now, the number one for us is the congressional prohibition. That's not going to happen in human spaceflight for the time being. I would tell people that the collaboration on a multilateral basis with China is incredible. You know, we just recently hosted or co-hosted a conference on glaciers in Kathmandu, Nepal, where Mike Freilich from the Science Mission Directorate, the head of the Earth Science Division, actually went and with his counterparts actually oversaw that conference where we're looking at glaciers in that incredibly important region of the world and looking at water as the most precious resource on this planet. We actually collaborate on two different areas of earth science and then a little bit on lunar science. So as the president asked us to do, we are looking every day to expand the number of partners that we have that we classify as non-traditional partners. So I purposely spend a lot of time on the road and in unusual places like Africa and South America. Just came back from a trip to South America visiting Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, and Peru. Argentina and Brazil have been partners of ours for probably 50 years. Colombia and Peru are brand new. I was mentioning to Lynn earlier today about the GLOBE program, and for some of you who know what GLOBE is, it's a critical STEM education program or education program that for kids from high school from elementary school through high school. And Peru just blew us away because they have an incredibly robust GLOBE program where they have expanded their program from just kids looking at meteorology to looking at environmental issues and things that affect their own environment right in the country of Peru. And we're trying to push the GLOBE program around the world. Most of our programs are in collaboration with other federal agencies, Servier with the U.S. Agency for International Development, and GLOBE working in Peru, as a matter of fact, with the Peace Corps. So a lot of things that you would not think that NASA's doing and collaborating that are pretty good to bring more nations to the table. But unfortunately, I can't tell you, I can't make news, okay? So Lauren's happy. One more question back there, I think, or two, right over there, Jim.
Hi. I'm wondering, what do you think a symposium of this sort could help accomplish?
Are you a student?
Yes, an intern.
Where?
At Goddard.
From where?
Oh, from Minnesota.
What school?
St. Cloud State University.
Hey, St. Cloud State. University of Illinois, Champaign. Are they here? Champaign-Urbana, stand up. Okay, everybody know this group? They have, I don't know how many years they've been coming. You all come in a van again? Multiple vans? Bunch of cars? Okay, you can sit down, but I just wanted to. Yes, what can this conference do for you and for the folk from University of Illinois? Did I get it right, Champaign-Urbana? Okay. And from St. Cloud. Just to have this symposium that allows you to mix and mingle with professionals in our field and have an opportunity to express your opinions about the future and to give your ideas, to exchange your ideas. You're going to hear from a bunch of experts here that come up. See all these names? They're my experts, I think. Those are ours, right? Jerzik's down there going, I don't know. I'm new. Right. But the biggest thing for you should be an opportunity for you to stand up and be counted, to share your ideas with some of these experts and other people, and help us understand how we reach your generation so much better than we're able to do. I'm very proud that NASA has really taken to social media something we did not do probably, what, Lauren, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? And we don't do an event today, nothing, whether it's a launch or anything else, without having what we call a NASA social, where we generally invite people from around the world to apply, and they get credentials, and they come in and they spend a day or two just learning about the mission or the event that's going to be held, and then they have an opportunity to actually look at that event. And when I have an opportunity to talk to them, or when John Grunsfeld down here has an opportunity to talk to them, I think most of us generally tell them, look, all we want you to do is tell other people what you're experiencing, good or bad. You know, if you fell in love with it and it was emotional, tell them that. Just tell them this was the most incredible thing you've ever seen. I happen to be one who believes no normal human being can go to any launch, see something leave the planet, and not get excited. Now, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to cry. In fact, I'd like it if most people are not like me. I just happen to be, my father taught me to cry when I played football for him. And he said it's okay. He said it's okay for a man to cry. So I do. I'm emotional about everything. But you cannot, you can't put your heart and soul into something if it doesn't move you. Seriously. If it doesn't move you, you're not going to do very well. When a kid asks you, like this young lady, what should I do? My answer all the time is, what is it about which you're passionate? And it may not be anything at all that they've been advised to go do. You know, mom and dad have said, go be a doctor or a lawyer or something. And they say, I'm passionate about trees. And I said, well, then go study trees. You know, because if you don't feel something, you're just not going to do as well as you can. I think that's what Bob was trying to tell us. If we don't feel this, we're in the wrong business. I want you to get emotional. I really do. I want you to get passionate. I really do. Because this is hard. You know, getting off this planet is hard. No matter what you're sending. When you talk about sending people, then that makes it really hard. And again, like I say, have a good time, stand up and be counted, and pick the brain of every single one of these experts that you have an opportunity to meet. So I think that's hopefully what you'll get out of the symposium. Okay? Maybe one more question? Maybe? Was there one right in there, or did we get it? I think right there. Okay. Oh, we got two. All right. That's all right.
Yes, hi, Charlie. In my job at the International Space University, I have the great pleasure to see the passion of young professionals from all over the globe. Many of them who are in awe of what our nation has accomplished in space and want to see that for their nations, want to see the development for their nations, but also want to cooperate and go forth as a species, so to speak, both to help the planet and go beyond. Are there any specific recommendations or requests you would have of this crowd of how better to connect with our young people in this country to invigorate the passion in them for what we do?
Boy, that's a hard question. I would ask you to be aware of several facts, and Bob pointed them out. I don't know whether you listened to that part of it. And I knew it, but I had a group of young high school students that are called the Senate Youth Program that I was privileged to talk to yesterday. They came over to NASA headquarters. About 200 kids from around the country, at least 2 from every state in the union, and they were brought here by their state senators. I was not surprised to find when I asked, how many of you, by show of hands in this audience, know, as Bob said, that right now we have a team of people orbiting Earth at 250 miles aboard the International Space Station? How many, give me a guess. What percentage of hands went up in the audience? Just yell it out. 50? 30? 25? I'm guessing the 25 and the 30, somewhere close to. These are America's best and brightest. And they all want to be future congressmen and senators. Less than 50%, significantly less than 50% of them were aware of the fact that we right now have Americans living and working in space. Many of them have brothers and sisters who are 13 years or less. Some of you have kids that are 13 years or less or grandkids. Do you know that they have not lived not 1 second of their life when human beings have not been living and working on the International Space Station? We passed 13 years, 14 years. 13? 13 last November or something like that. So, you know, if they're a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old, they're a space generation kid. So we've got to get out, tell people what we do. We've got to find ways to find out how we reach that generation and let them know. And the other thing is they got to understand that it belongs to them, that it's theirs. You know, we spend a lot of time as Americans beating ourselves up. You know, we have nothing about which to be proud. Blah, 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 blah. Trust me, 1% of our population wears a uniform of some military service. Less than 1%. Less than 1% of our population travels throughout this world representing us and going into really bad places and doing really dangerous things, and they are incredibly proud to do that. I think we can do no less. So we need to find a way to reach kids, help them understand that this is theirs, that it's not about us. I look around this room, there are not a lot of us other than maybe the students who are going to make the journey to Mars. Not many of us. There are not many of us in positions of leadership right now who are going to even be sitting at a console when we go make the journey to Mars. And so we've got to find the people who we can put next to us as we do MMS and as we do EFT or EM1 and 2 and all this other stuff, because they're the ones that are actually going to do it. And if you remember that it's not about us, that we're actually trying to do stuff to prepare the groundwork for them so they can go do it, and then you reach out and find my fraternity, you know, we have some what we call, I guess I'd call them core values, but one of them is uplift. And that means we are always looking back and grabbing somebody else and pulling them along with us. That's just what we have to do. This is fun, but not a lot of people know that. And so you've got to reach back and grab some young person and bring them along with you. Otherwise, it'll go for naught. So, one more question.
Yes, thank you very much for your great leadership of NASA. And I'm retired Goddard, so I had a question about spacefaring civilizations need to have closed biospheres so they can live off the land or, you know, resupply themselves, basically. And I wonder what NASA's doing to hasten the success of those efforts.
If you look at what's going on the International Space Station today, if I just use that as an example, crews are learning how to grow crops. We're working with the Department of Agriculture. We've done a lot of different things, and it's not NASA. It's the Department of Agriculture. And when you talk to Assistant Secretary Hardin, she gets fired up because she says we're going to feed the world with what we're learning on the International Space Station. You know, we are learning how to recycle water, where you can be self-sustaining. You don't have to depend on a cargo ship bringing you water, because you can't do it. 8 months is a long time waiting on a water supply, so you've got to be able to do it yourself. John and the folk in the Science Mission Directorate, when we fly Mars 2020 in 2020, one of the experiments is actually it's going to be dedicated to human exploration, believe it or not, and we're actually going to try to take some samples of ice from Mars and hydrolyze it and make oxygen and do all other kinds of stuff. So I think you see that unlike the way that we used to be in the past, we really are trying to change. We don't do very much that's not a collaboration among technology development, science, human exploration, and aeronautics. People often kind of chuckle when I say "and aeronautics." You know, you go through the supersonic and hypersonic speed range every time you leave the planet, and every time you come back, if you come back successfully. And so we need to understand the hypersonic flight regime, and that's aeronautics. So we have all 4 of our mission directorates that are collaborating in order to keep us successful every day. So for a young person that's interested in aeronautics, there is a great future. Sometimes it doesn't seem like it. I see Mark out there who is he gets excited when I mention the word hypersonics because he and I are both, we're lovers of hypersonics, and that is an area that this nation doesn't quite grasp the importance of it. And so he is leading the fight to try to make sure that, that we don't abandon that, and that we're surpassed by other nations in the world who would really like to do that, who would like to become number one in place of us. So, you know, let me just say, as I walk away from here, I am very naive. I admit that. I love that about me. I sometimes am Pollyannish, and that's okay about me. I am emotional because I love what we do. And I know what we can do, but we can't do it if we don't pull together. It's like Bob said, you know, if we stay in all kinds of disparate directions and everybody believes that their idea is the best idea and I'm not giving in 1 ounce, you know, you're going to do it my way or it's not going to get done. It won't get done, and we won't go anywhere. We are as close as we have ever been to being able to put a human on Mars. I don't think the nation has ever been there before. We always seem to be 20 years away. And we are perilously close. And I say perilously close because there comes a time when you are really committed and then you can't back off. We're not there yet. We could back off tomorrow if you wanted to. But we are perilously close in going under that 20-year threshold when people begin to taste it and it starts to become, there's a myth about the Apollo era. You know, I lived through it. There is a myth that everyone was, you know, on board and in love with space exploration and really pushing for it. That is not true. Much of the Apollo era was just like we are today, where there were some foot soldiers out there really, you know, trying to lead everybody else. Everybody around the world was on board on the day that Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. And everyone was on board back August 2 years ago when Curiosity landed on Mars. And those rare times where we are all unified in one thing come along, but that's not normalcy. So if you're looking or you're waiting for a time that we're going to have everybody on board and people are cheering, you know, and wanting to have ticker tape parades, you're in the wrong business. You know, we're in the business of having foot soldiers who believe in the future and really think we can do things, and then we just slog through it. And that's what we've got to do. We're about to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Hubble. Who would have thought that we'd be doing this? You know, John may have. Matt Mountain may have. I tell you, after Deploy Day, I wasn't sure we were going to be celebrating the first anniversary because it was so hard to get it out. But, you know, we have done some great things, and it's when people slog through stuff and just don't look for the bands and the confetti and all that other kind of stuff. We're in a great business, and we've just got to stay focused on it, and we'll do okay. So thanks very much again.